Here you go. That's a song about hope. Actually, I think most of these are. That wasn't planned out. That's awesome. I can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. Surrounded by your glory, what will my heart feel? Will I dance for you, Jesus? Or in awe of you be still? Will I stand in your presence? Or to my knees will I fall? Will I sing hallelujah? Will I be able to see you, Lord? I can only imagine. Yeah, I can only imagine. Well, I can only imagine what it will be like when I walk by your side. I can only imagine what my eyes will see when your face is before me. I can only imagine. can only imagine when all I will do is forever worship you. I can only imagine. Thank you. Thank you. I love that song. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me home. Swing low, sweet chariot, coming for to carry me Need to celebrate clean time with colorful bracelets? Anybody? Huh? All right. Next up then is Lori.
Thanks, everybody.
I could wait for you to get out of the way, huh? 12 steps. Step 1. We admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. 2, we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Step 3, we made a decision to turn our wills and our lives over to the care of God. 4, we made a searching and fearless moral inventory of ourselves. 5, we admitted to God, to ourselves, and to another human being the exact nature of our wrongs. 6, we were entirely ready to have God remove these defects of character. 7, we humbly asked God to remove our shortcomings. 8, we made a list of all persons we had harmed and become willing to make amends to them all. 9, we made direct amends to such people whenever possible, except when to do so would injure them or others. 10, we continued to take personal inventory, and when we were wrong, promptly admitted it. 11, we sought through prayer and meditation to improve our conscious contact with God, praying only for knowledge of His will for us and the power to carry it out. 12, having had a spiritual awakening as a result of these steps, we tried to carry out this message to others and to practice these principles in all our affairs. And again, tonight is our last night on step 1. We admitted that we were powerless over our problems and that our lives had become unmanageable. Robert?
Thank you, Lori.
You are welcome.
All right, the reading tonight is from Job 6, 2 through 13. We're not going to read all of the verses, but some of them. We admitted that we were powerless over our problems, that our lives had become unmanageable, and tonight's message is hope amidst suffering. There are times when we're so confused and overwhelmed by the pain in our lives that we wish we could die. No matter what we do, we are powerless to change things for the better. The weight of the pain and sadness seems too heavy to bear. We can't see why our hearts don't just break and allow death to free us.
So do you agree or disagree with those statements?
I agree. I've been there.
Why do you think so?
Because when we are in the midst of our addictions, many times we don't see the way out. We just feel like, what's the use? No matter what I do, I just keep on going back to that same pattern that I've been doing, and I can't seem to do anything different. So why not just give up and get rid of the pain and suffering?
So, I know this, I have this question down here, so what do you think this means?
It means that we're without hope. It means that we're overwhelmed. It's just too much to bear. We don't think we can continue on. We don't think that there's any way we can continue. And I would imagine that most of us know people who have actually taken their own life because of their addiction. And I considered it Thankfully, I didn't pursue it. I had the fleeting thought, but still, it's scary to think that you could even get that to that point, you know.
Very scary. Yeah. Good, thank you, Robert. Let's go forward.
Okay, Job felt that way. He'd lost everything, even though he had always done what was right.
Any thoughts on that right there?
Yeah, when I was reading this, I thought, well, he probably had a better reason to feel helpless and overwhelmed than I did, because I didn't always do what was right, but Job did.
Good point. Good point.
But the things he lost, as we go on, it says his 10 children were dead. He had lost his business, his riches, and his health. All of this happened in a matter of days.
Kind of sounds like people caught up in addiction, doesn't it?
Yes,
So it can happen without addiction, though, right?
it can happen in many ways. And sometimes it doesn't take only days, sometimes it takes years or months. And the thing that, I tried to stop and had periods of not engaging, I guess. But whenever I started again, it was worse. Each time that I would relapse and start gambling again, it was worse, deeper. I felt more out of control every time. And I would imagine that most addictions are like that.
Well, you know, would you all concur with that statement? That, once you return, it's worse,
Yeah.
right? All of it's worse. And,
Yeah.
You remind me of of a person that many years ago, and this is 10, 20, 15 years ago, I was working with this fella. He was known as an NA Nazi. And that wasn't my term. That was what I think he even told me. And I think he was proud of it. And he started coming to Saturday night and being involved, and he was giving his testimony one time, and he had been 10 years clean for 10 years, and he said, and I'll never relapse, and that bothered me. Okay, and it wasn't long. Some things turned upside down in his life. And I went to his place of business and sat in his office and tried to help him, and eventually, years later, after he tumbled, got fired from that job and so forth and so on, and went to jail and so forth, and you know how it goes. He was able to get his footing back. And in fact, he's involved in where he lives now, a recovery meeting that we talked about and tried to help get it going with him, in another state, in another city. So anyway, it's when we got to be careful. Don't let
Yeah.
pride and ego creep in there, because if it does, it can grab a hold of you.
Yep.
And it might be even worse than shame, but maybe it's equal. Go ahead, Robert.
Job was left with a sharp tongued wife and 3 friends who blamed him for his own misfortune.
What do you think that means? You want to talk
He,
about it?
he'd lost all the good things in his life, and the way he saw it, all he had left was the bad stuff.
Well, sharp-tongued wife and friends that said that he was the problem and he was to blame,
Yeah.
and that's tough when you're standing all alone.
Yep.
You know, it doesn't mean that you can't, because he did, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so, let's go on.
Job cried out, "If my misery could be weighed and my troubles be put on the scales, they would outweigh all the sands of the sea."
What do you think that means?
That means his troubles were undeniable and uncomparable to anyone else. He had it worse than anybody.
But the fact of it was, he was being honest. I wanted to really make sure that I hit this. He was being honest with God. He wasn't trying to fake it till he makes it. He was being honest with God, and that he felt like that's how he felt. That he felt like it was heavier than the grains of all the sand and all the seas. And so, and I've got it on that sheet, a breakdown that God wants to hear that. Why? Because he can deal with truth if you're speaking in truth. That doesn't mean that that put him in a place that God couldn't help. No, what it did, being honest, positioned him so that God could help. Does that make sense?
Right.
Go ahead.
Job cried out, oh no, "Oh, that I might have my request, that God would grant my desire. I wish he would crush me. I wish he would reach out his hand and kill me. I don't have the strength to endure. I have nothing to live for."
Okay, what do you think that means?
He had lost all hope. He didn't feel like his life was worth living. He'd lost everything good in his life, and all he had was people telling him what a sinner he was.
Good, yes. And so that's where he was at the moment. And so that was, King David, when he was in the state of depression, he did the same thing. He came to God the way that he is, because if we don't come to him the way we are, then we're not being truthful.
Right.
We're not being, as you said earlier, honest. Honest with ourselves, honest with God. And God can deal with honesty, which honesty is truth. And that's how he felt. But that didn't mean that he was in a truly impossible situation. It just felt impossible, right?
Mm-hmm.
This just popped in my mind. Jesus, when he was on the cross, he said, my God, why have you forsaken me?" That's how he felt, right? I'll get you, John. That's how he felt. But that didn't mean it was an impossible situation, but he felt like it was impossible, and he had to be tempted in every way that every human was tempted, and that's how he felt. But God said he'd never leave you or forsake you. So just because that's how he felt, just like that's how Job felt, we have to bring those to him. Okay, John.
In the garden, Christ almost said, "Not my will, but mine be done."
That's right.
In other words, he was not wanting to go through the death on the cross, but he knew that he had to fulfill God's plan for humanity.
I don't know that he maybe thought that he had to, but I don't know that he knew that he had to, because he basically asked is there another way? Okay, is there a plan B here? Let's check this out. Okay, you know, this looks pretty serious. Could there be another way? And but when he comes to the conclusion, no, this is the way. Okay, and so, but that's a good point, John. Thank you. Let's go forward.
Do I have the strength of a stone? Is my body made of bronze? No.
What is that? What do you think that means? It could be. Anybody else? Tempered, and what do you mean by? I mean, I can guess, but what does that mean? Okay, all right. What about the stone?
I think he's just referring to things that seem unbreakable. Like a large stone, you know, it's pretty hard to break them. You got to have special skills and special tools. You can't just walk up and hit your fist against a stone and break it. Not very many people can do that. Or the body made of bronze means it's able to resist anything that comes at it. Kind of like Superman, you know, the bullets bounce off. So he was just comparing himself, and then he answered the questions he asked. Am I like that?
Wait a second. I want to throw my 2 cents in here.
Okay.
But I was letting everybody throw theirs in first. And that is basically, simple answer, rocks are hardened, and bronze, I mean, that's what they, you know, for shields and breastplates, it was hardened. It was hard, okay? Tempered, that's the reason why I was wanting to see where you expanded into on the tempered. And then which would be strength, which goes to kind of what you were talking about a statue as far as representing strength, representing hardness and strength. And so, you know, he's saying, you know, am I those things? Right? Well, the answer to that question is
No. I am utterly helpless, without any chance of success. And these verses were Job 6, 2 and 3, verses 8 and 9, and verses 11 through 13. I encourage you to read that whole chapter. It's really good. But anyway, Job admitted he was helpless. His life was unmanageable.
yes, good.
That's what we have to do.
Right.
And on top of that,
Wait. Let's back up here just a tad. So that's what we need to do. Why do we need to do that?
so that it'll once we admit that, it gives room for God to step in and give us hope and show us that even though we don't have the power, He does.
And that's true. But before that step, we have to get honest with Him, because our honesty creates a space for God to be able to come in and fill.
Yeah.
Until then, we close up and we go into a defense mechanism even against God.
We think we are Superman.
Yeah.
We think we can handle it. And nobody can tell us any different. That's the way I was, anyway.
Until we hit the bottom, or we're close to death.
Yeah.
Behind bars, or we're, you know, in. Yep. Or dynamite.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Good. Go ahead.
Job did not know that the end of his life would be even better than the beginning. God eventually restored everything Job had lost and then some. And if you know the story of Job, or you know that he was blessed with more children, he was blessed with more flocks and land than he had before they were taken away, and he lived a long life. Well, that's what the scripture said. 42:17 said, "Then he died, an old man who had lived a long, full life."
What do you think that means?
That means, it almost means he lived happily ever after. But he would just, he could look back on his life and say that it had turned out well. And that was that the suffering he went through was not in vain. And
He was placed in the arena of life, and he withstood. He fought the good fight of faith, we might say, because he didn't give up, and it didn't look like he was going to win, because it kept coming there, loss after loss after hit after hit. How many have ever felt that? It just over and over and over.
Yeah.
Well, you can't win if you quit, right? And it's easy to quit, but it's not easy. It's not an easy life after you quit. Now, that sounds harsh, but the fact of it is, he had a very difficult situation, and he didn't cause it.
right, he didn't turn against God. The thing that I find a lot of people saying after they've been in recovery a while is, people ask them, do you wish you could go back and do things different? Well, I think everybody has a little kind of mixed feelings about that. Like me, of course I wish I would have done things different so that I wouldn't lose my family and that I wouldn't lose some of the things that I had. But by the same token, I would not be the same person today if I didn't go through what I did. So I believe that I'm a better person now, having gone through what I did, than I was before. So,
Congratulations.
well,
Seriously.
yeah.
And that is what recovery is. Transformation.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I have to be careful because I still feel like, I'm this close to the right back where I was, I just have to be careful. And this seems like they're pushing me closer to the edge. You bombarded with commercials on TV, especially if you watch sports, to get involved in the betting. And that's my addiction, is gambling. Then they legalized it here in Missouri, the sports betting. And then you can walk in many convenience stores, and they have those video machines that. So I have to avoid those stores that have them. I have to put an app on my phone that won't allow me to get on gambling sites. But I feel like that's what I need to do. God has so far been with me through these journeys, and I don't want to mess it up, I don't want to go back.
And that awareness, I think, means you're healthier, in my opinion. Just like I was talking about that fellow that was the NA Nazi. He used hardness to protect himself, and also and he was hard on people too. And that's the reason why I was afraid for him when he said that he'd never relapse, because again, the ego, he thought he was invincible now. And how does that work? How does that work out for us?
Not well.
Go ahead.
Even when we're pressed to the point of death, there is still hope that our lives will change. Our recovery could be so complete that the final lines written about us might read, "At last he or she died after living a long, full life." We must remember life can be good again.
What do you think that means?
That means the end is better than the beginning, just like Job, if we allow God to help us, if we're truthful with God and let Him give us hope, even though we suffer, in the long run it'll be better.
And so let's back up to our topic and look at the topic again. And it's I'm looking for it.
Hope.
Hope in the midst of suffering. What does that mean? Hope in the midst. I meant to talk about amidst. What does that mean? Hope in the midst of suffering. Do I-
While you're suffering, you have hope.
While you're in the midst of suffering, you can have hope.
For a better future.
Right? What does that mean?
That just means that you should, not all people are that, it's really depressed, you have no hope, you don't have hope for a good future, but when you get your depression under control and stuff, you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. You learn.
I don't disagree with that, but that's not what we're talking about here. Okay, because what are we talking about here? Say it again. Hope in the midst of suffering. What does that mean?
It means we
Really dark all around you. It could be really dark all around you, and your mental status could be really messed up. Your thinking is out of whack. Everything's just crazy. But there's just a glimmer of hope that I'm going to make it out of this.
Okay, all right. During your suffering, good. While you're suffering, you can have hope. And Robert, what was you going to say?
I was going to say that we don't know God's timing.
Good.
We have to trust Him enough that we'll endure the suffering no matter how long it takes, because we hope and we have faith that it's going to get better.
Good. And so we have the hope and the faith that it's going to get better. Even though I'm in the depths of hell, I can have hope that it's going to get better.
Yeah.
Even though it hurts. This is bad. I mean, it's worse than bad, right? And we've all had some bad stuff, right? And so we can. So I wonder, could that be a sign or a signal to us? What in the world is he saying? What am I saying?
A sign of what?
What could what we're talking about here, hope in the midst of suffering, could that be a sign or a signal?
Yeah.
What do you mean, yeah? What?
I thought it was a yes or no answer.
No, yeah, it was, but it was a trick. Go ahead.
You got to take hope with a grain of salt, because hope perpetuates itself.
Okay.
When you get to the solution, it's not really the end, but
Well, it's out there somewhere in front of. Right. Okay, that's good. Good. So could this hope in the midst of suffering be a sign or a signal? And what does that mean? You all said yes. So what does that mean?
It means it tells us we're on the right track.
Okay, could be, right? You know, there's a chance. You know, there's a possibility. There's a glimmer of hope. I'm not dead yet. Right? How about that one? That sounds, you know, I've said that one before. Okay? There's still a chance. And, you know, there's a signal that there is a possibility for us. Does any of that make sense?
Yep.
And that's what we're talking about here. And step one helps us to become honest and admit that we need the help because we're powerless and our lives have become unmanageable, and I'm in the midst of suffering, emotional suffering, because I've made some terrible choices, and all of that is hope if we recognize that, and that's a signal. There's still God is in the midst of that to bring us out. While we were talking here, I thought of Psalm 23. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. Thy rod and thy staff, they'll comfort me. Right? And even though we're in that scary place, we know that he's still with us. And that's the hope that we're talking about. Even if I can't feel it, I can believe it because it's true. At least I believe it's true. Quoting Psalm 23, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I'll fear no evil. You know, because we're in the valley of the dark, scary places where we feel alone, just as Jesus felt alone on the cross. My God, why have you forsaken me? Just because we feel that way doesn't mean that we are that way, and if we can accept that fact, that's just how I feel, that's not the way that it is, because the truth says that I'm not.
And that's hope.
That's hope. So why did you choose this topic?
Because it had the fewest questions, and Vanessa said, take it easy on her.
And what did you learn out of this lesson?
That as long as we are truthful to God and honest, there's always hope. We need to focus on that hope and allow God to work it for us.
The belief of redemption is hope, right?
Mm-hmm.
He desires to redeem us, and spiritually we're redeemed, but we have to get it manifested, right?
Yep.
That's good. And so what's your takeaway?
The takeaway is I'm hoping that when I die, people will say he lived a long and full life.
Good. Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it, Robert. You always do good. Vanessa.
Maybe let's make sure this time I don't unplug the microphone in the middle of talking. Did you see that earlier? I accidentally unplugged the microphone while I was singing. It was great. All right. what kind of people do I hang around with and trust? People who criticize or people who encourage truth? To be honest with you, I don't hang around people. This is it. No, I don't. And I have this week recognized that I might be in a pickle of an area because I have my whole life just shut people out. I have. And I was thinking back, I believe I could identify with being 5, 6 years old whenever that started. I've always been, it's weird, I'm an omnivore. I'm an extroverted introvert. I can extrovert very well, but I'm very much an introvert to recharge. And so people wouldn't imagine that I'm an introvert. And so that question's hard, but the people that I am around most often by proxy, because they're my family or they're you guys or they're my work colleagues, they're not necessary. Not that I choose you guys. I choose to be here. So I wanted to preface that before I said, not that I choose to be around, but I guess I do have a choice. I do choose. Whenever I'm around my family, I choose whenever I want to be around my family. So, and then work, I love my job. I chose my job. So, my colleagues, there's only 2 of them. So to answer that, people who criticize or people who encourage truth. If people start to criticize, I'm finally at a point where I shut them down. I used to be an appeaser to an extent, or I would sarcastically turn it into a joke. And then I would turn myself into the butt of the joke, and I've quit doing that for a long time now. So, or people who encourage truth. When I'm one-on-one with certain family members, they're very much people who encourage truth now. I can say that as I've grown, I've seen the growth in my family. Now, it took several of my family members dying for that growth to happen. But we're all a lot better now than what we used to be. And we're not where we want to be, like Doug says. Yeah. What emotion? Yeah.
Thank the Lord for that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if I could go into my 40s living life like I did in my 20s. There's no way. What emotions can I identify when I am at the bottom? It's funny. So there's this stage of life called the dark night of the soul. And there's a book written on it. And there's several people who they talk about it. And they give testimony. Dark night of the soul is like basically like your worst time of your life, whatever. And it can be amplified during a spiritual awakening whenever you are having revelations of your life that is pure crap, And I would say for the last 10 years, I have been barreling the bottom. I've lost 3 houses, bankruptcy, 5 cars, 3 relationships. One of them, domestic violence, had the crap beat out of me. And just the last 10 years, had to face my child self-harming and having to put 2 of my children in the unit. And then after all of that was said and done, that's why I was saying barreling the bottom with my emotions, just shoving it down and shoving, because you have to keep going. I was the one in charge, right? And it wasn't until August to September of last year that I hit the bottom. And my kids had been moved out for a year, and I live alone. And I ended up in the psych ward after it was 10 years of stuff. Just finally the toilet flushed. And there I was. And so what emotions can I identify when I'm at the bottom? That was probably the closest, most terrifying moment of feeling. I still had hope, but you talk about I felt what a mustard seed felt like. A mustard seed of hope felt like in that moment. But
Can we tie that in with our topic here, what you just said?
the mustard
The
seed,
at the bottom, the mustard seed,
mm-hmm.
and tie that in with how, does that relate to our topic here, hope in the midst of suffering?
I mean, it says even faith is a mustard seed, and if faith is a substance of hope, hope of a mustard seed. I had just enough hope to drive myself from my camper to my mom's house, and that's 25 minutes. You know, so that hope of a mustard seed was enough to put me in a place where I was safe. And what the dumbest part of it is, like, it shouldn't have been the most suffering time of my life. It was the accumulated time spent stuffing it down that just barreled me over like a tornado, you know, taking Job's kids out, you know, and it so I wasn't necessarily suffering. I had got myself stuck in this mental loop of overanalyzing everything because I was doing inner child healing on my own. I had graduated therapy, which was great, you know, but I hit a place in the inner childhood healing that honestly probably really needed to be done with a therapist, which it's being done now with a therapist. But even with just a mustard seed of hope was enough to get me to a place where, at least for 96 hours, I had enough cushion on those rocks to be able to, I'm not even going to say bounce back, because there was no bouncing coming back. It's been a slow process, and yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you. The most vulnerable time of my life, you know.
Congratulations again.
And the emotions was, oh my gosh, every emotion. It was like every emotion that I had avoided my whole life just came. I remember sitting in front of my doctor's office, and I went through 5 emotions in 10 minutes. And then my doctor's like, well, you might be like going through perimenopause or I was like, maybe, you know, and like add that to the bucket of crap that could be happening to me right now, you know?
Or it could have been emotional purpose.
And it was because I really felt like I heard God say that I was going through a purging and a purification of everything, of like all these answered prayers that are about to come, that's what that was. But my gosh, I don't want to ever avoid another emotion, but I'm still learning to be vulnerable with myself enough to sit with it when it happens. And whenever I'm not feeling an emotion, I'm like, which one am I avoiding at the time, you know? But then I'm like, I don't want to pick a fight when a fight's not there, you know? Yeah. So, thank you. To identify the emotions, we don't have all night because they're, like I said, they were all there. And I had really been like someone who I was the strong child, the strong one. You know, I was the one that was the rock for my parents, you know, even whenever I was a teenager, and my parents and us, we grew up together. So I'm not going to say anything horrible about my parents. You know, they were kids raising kids, and I understand that now. And so there were times where like I would be the counselor, you know, for either or have to play somewhat of a referee between, you know. So I was always that strong one. I was always the one, you know, my parents told me at a very young age, I don't have to worry about you because you have your head on your shoulders. And so to come to a place where like I was the most childlike and vulnerability, that I was actually showing some honest emotions for the first time, where I had been, you know, I would get in trouble whenever I was younger for my emotions. So to be there and see like the fear on my parents' face because I'm falling apart at 39 years old, to see that in my parents, and to actually for the first time since I was 5 years old feel parental love at 39. I can't even begin to make the whole list of emotions that I was feeling. It was very healing, and it's healed so much of my parents and my relationship, and even some of with my sister. To break open the the strong child and reveal a very feminine, vulnerable little girl was very, What have I done in the past to deal with pain or sadness? Well, in the past, it was a lot of rage, a lot of screaming, a lot of yelling, but also with my kids, I had developed a coping mechanism where I would put myself in timeout because I was trying to change the parenting style. I didn't want to parent the way my parents parented. So where, typically prior, like with my generation, a parent would parent because they're frustrated, and they would often parent out of their emotions. I didn't want to parent out of my emotions, so whenever I was feeling really heavy, strong emotions, I would get away from my children and allow myself to calm down before I tried to parent them. And a lot of times I realized that the only reason why I felt like a punishment was necessary is because I was inconvenienced. And so it was good that I took that time because it did not warrant an actual punishment. And so I dealt with pain and sadness in so many different ways. It depended on who you were, how intimate our relationship was. I would deal with the men that I was in relationships with a whole separate way than I ever dealt with any other people, which turned out to be pretty toxic sometimes. So, which included, of course, addiction, but I talk more about like my actual addiction is codependency. Now does substance use fall under that category? Yes. But now I deal with pain and sadness a little bit different. I allow it. I allow time. I listen to my body more. Whenever I am feeling moments of sadness or pain, I'm don't spend a lot of time trying to overanalyze why I'm feeling it. Because I'm trying to get out of the cycle of like keeping score of like trauma dates. I don't want to continue to keep score of trauma dates. And so you talk about purging. I recognize that some of this sadness and stuff could just be my body. There's a book called The Body Keeps the Score. My body is releasing the score. Finally. And I just turned 40 and my body's releasing the score, which is fantastic, because I don't have the illnesses in my body that I had before, because I've done a lot of somatic work. What somatic work is somatic syndrome is where your body has an automatic response regardless of your awareness. So we talk about how depression can affect your physical health. So that's somatic. So how that affects your physical health and different ways that it shows up. So like indigestion, they say anxiety is held in the stomach. So indigestion could be anxiety. Or anger is held in the liver. So if you have a lot of pain over here, or you have like I have non-alcoholic fatty liver. And that is understandable. I was a very angry person. Now there's like some studies that I've been reading that like, obesity has a lot to do with anger towards yourself. And so I've been going down that pathway, still trying to do some of the somatic work, and even doing like, I've been trying to take better care of myself, like with doing a liver detox. And so these are how I'm actually dealing with my emotions now, is like I allow them, and then I'm like, okay, where in my body can I start doing like a purging or a detox of buildup or whatever. So I've been doing a lot more meditation. I do some yoga, and I've also realized that I'm not really that angry of a person anymore, which is great. And I don't know which came first. The liver detox healed that, or the emotions that are actually being purged, like, or God is purging it, or all of the above, me co-partnering with God, working through this stuff. And I'll tell you, and my labs, I've been getting blood work done very routinely since I was 13 years old, because I had an autoimmune disease, right? And my white blood cell count has been well over 11,000. It usually runs between 15 to 17,000, which is extremely high, since I was 13. Well, they just dubbed that generalized autoimmune disease, and it could affect whatever, right? Since I've been doing this, and since I had to change my diet because of my food allergy, my white blood cell count came back at 12,000, which is the most normal it has been since I was 13 years old, and I'm 40 now. All my blood work is everything, this last blood draw, is within normal range. That to me is a miracle, and I can't take credit for all of it, because that is a massive shift. And that alone gives me more hope that maybe I won't follow in the same footsteps of some of these family ailments, these sicknesses that they say like, oh, that's hereditary. I want to try to beat that a little bit, Maybe diabetes doesn't have to be hereditary. Maybe if I do some inner work and my blood work stays good, and I focus on this healing, then maybe I don't have to end up diabetic. Maybe I don't have to end up at 44 losing my uterus like every other woman in my family. Maybe if I just keep doing this, then maybe I could live a healthy, long life. And I'm aiming for a minimum of 100. We'll see. Well, if I make some good friends, I'm trying to plan out my life even in the nursing home. Like, I want to be that spunky one in the nursing home if I end up in a nursing home. We'll see. So those are just different ways that I'm actually dealing with emotions. I don't want to just say pain or sadness, But the pain that I deal with has always been physical pain. And I'll tell you now, I'm not in near the physical pain that I was 2 years ago. All the inflammation markers, all normal, so I don't have that inflammation in my body. It's great. It's great. So that to me, just that blood work and some of the study that I've been doing just proves that like this stuff really works,
Will you say that again?
This stuff really works. And my blood work proves that this stuff really works.
I just wanted to mark that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, I'm in college. I went back to college, and thank you. And because of all of this, like some of the hope for the future, even though I don't want to jinx myself, but I'm going to say it, is I have decided that I think my topic to declare is going to be sports medicine. And that's going to, and my hope, I know I'm not too old. I hope that will help get into like a pre-med into functional doctor. So pray for that, because I'm not too far gone to maybe be a doctor. So dream big, right? That's what Tony Robbins says. Dream big.
Why not?
Why not? I've got a lot of life to live. Let's do something with it, instead of just focusing so much on the past. There's so much healing that's already been done. And God is, when I was talking the last time we were here about the process will process you, even if you're not processing it with you or with it, that's a blessing, even though you're scared. It is a blessing because you still get processed. Even if you end up in the unit for 96-hour hold, you're still getting processed. But I slept so good while I was in there, I'll tell you, and I ate really good, and that's what I needed. So, yeah, maybe that's what it's going to take to turn me into a doctor. We'll see. Well, do it. Do it. Get some bubble wrap. Home Depot sells it.
So, what did you learn from this topic?
That I am working, I work through stuff a lot more healthy, now, healthily, than I did before.
Good.
Yeah.
And what's your takeaway?
Well, I'll just repeat that even a mustard seed of hope is enough.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. Thank you, Vanessa.
Welcome. Goes on and on.
Good. Good. Thank you. Good to have you back.
Thank you.
At the podium.
Yeah. I had to take a break, but I'm about to be back.
So, anybody, what'd you learn from this topic? Okay. What did you learn from this topic tonight, Lori? You said something. Oh, okay. Okay. So you didn't learn anything from this topic. Because if we don't have that, we then fall into the sea of nihilism, hopeless. Anybody else?
I was just thinking, I have perseverance during the storm, during all the chaos.
Yes.
And even though I haven't been in active addiction in a long time, there's still storms come up.
You bet.
Stuff still pops up here and there. But to have some perseverance.
Good. You remind me of a quote of Corrie ten Boom. Anybody familiar with Corrie ten Boom? She said, her statement was, and because primarily she was in the Alps and in Germany and those areas over there, and they have trains that go along the mountains and they go through mountains and those tunnels. And so this quote is about that. said, when you're riding a train and you go in a tunnel and it's dark and it's scary and you don't know where the end is, trust the conductor. Don't jump out of the train. I don't know, that always, when you feel overwhelmed, just wait a minute, focus on, yes, the engineer and the conductor, they know what's going on. We're all right. And God is the engineer and the conductor.
What if you have 20 years of forced manual labor? Do you still keep believing? Like
Well,
the Egyptians, like the Israelites.
yes. Well, and um, Victor Franco in the death camps, every morning he woke up, he had a 16th or 20th chance of dying that day, and he lived multiple years, and he said that he was freer than his captors because he decided that he could choose what he was going to think and believe. Now, he wasn't in control of his situation, but he was going to stay in control of himself. And so, and I think of Jeremiah Johnson, that was I think he was a Vietnam prisoner of war for multiple years. And I don't know if it was him or not, but he said that prisoners would tell themselves that they were going to be getting out at Easter, or they was going to get out at Christmas, and he said, I learned not to do that. He didn't put a time limit on it. He just says, I will go home. And he said those ones that had a particular date, they'd lose hope because that date would come and go. But he went home. Anyway, just as a thought. And so, and that's where we're talking about, right? Our topic here, hope in the midst of suffering. May the Lord bless you and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you his